Coming in number 10, Piers Morgan. If you recall, when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle appeared on Oprah, Piers Morgan had a lot to say about the interview the following day. While on Good Morning Britain, the host sounded off about Meghan lying during the interview, even at one point referring to her as the Pinocchio princess in a tweet later that day. Following his comments, the station received over 41,000 complaints. His live TV moment that sort of ruined his career, though, was when he clashed on air with weather presenter Alex Beresford. Alex criticized Piers for continuing to trash Meghan, which prompted Piers to just get up while he was speaking and walk right off the set. He would return within 10 minutes, but the damage was already done. In a statement, the studio spokesperson said, "Following discussions with ITV, Piers Morgan has decided now is the time to leave Good Morning Britain. ITV has accepted this decision and has nothing further to add." Coming in number 9, Jim Carrey. At the New York Fashion Week in 2017, Jim Carrey made a rare appearance, and while walking down the red carpet, he did his best to avoid an interview with E! News. At first, he really tried to twirl around a few times and not really stand still, hoping that would work, but she was persistent. Carrey then even says that he wanted to find the most meaningless event that he could go to, and that's how he ended up there. The interviewer, trying to keep the integrity of the event high, claims that it's a celebration of icons, for which Jim says, "Icons don't exist. I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe you exist. But there is a wonderful fragrance in the air." Before departing from this awkward interview, though, he leaves her with a nugget of truth.
Here's the thing, it's not our world.
None of this is real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
Okay.
Coming in number 8, Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld is one of the most successful comedians of all time, no doubt. His show Seinfeld was on television for 9 years, and Jerry's decision to go out on top proved to be one of the most lucrative deals for the comedian ever. Since the final episode, the show has generated over $3 billion in repeat fees. But for whatever reason, Larry King thought that they canceled the show. Even though Larry King worked for CNN, he wasn't known for his hard-hitting questions. Yet for whatever reason, he decided to use an interview promoting Jerry's B-movie to ask him if Seinfeld was canceled.
I'm asking you.
You think I got canceled? Are you under the impression that I got canceled?
Have I hurt you, Jerry?
I thought that was pretty well documented. This is
most shows
is this still
go down.
CNN? I was the #1 show on television, Larry.
You were
Do you know who I am?
And you can see right away in Seinfeld's body language how frustrated he gets when Larry even tries to insinuate this. Jerry does not back down though and immediately goes on the attack, telling King that he was the #1 show on television before adding the very crass line of, "Do you know who I am?" That's my best Jerry Seinfeld.
Number 7, Hillary Clinton. During her speech at George Washington University in 2008, Hillary had been regaling supporters on the campaign trail with exciting tales of a trip that she made to Bosnia in March of 1996. In her retelling of the story, she made herself out to be a brave action hero, as she claimed that she was sent to places that her husband, Bill Clinton, could not go because they were too dangerous. She said, "I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base. That's not what happened." In fact, there was even a CBS News video released that shows Hillary arriving on the tarmac under no visible duress and greeting a child who offers her a copy of a poem. Immediately after the speech that day, a reporter asked her about the other people that were on the trip who had come out challenging her story. In response, Hillary doubled down and said there was no greeting ceremony and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened. But she retracted the remarks only a week later and said that she had misspoke and that she had been told there was a threat of sniper fire in the area. But obviously she just wanted to up the ante and add a little bit of drama where there was none before. Number 6, Ed Sheeran. The singer cut his face quite noticeably back in 2017, and soon reports emerged that during a heavy night of drinking, Princess Beatrice had sliced his face open with a sword while she was trying to knight his friend at a party. The story goes that when she went to lift the sword, she accidentally slashed his cheek. Ed went with that story for quite some time until it was revealed that he had caught himself in a lie. But it was none other than James Blunt who set the record straight, because he was there at the time. He exposed his friend and claimed that the whole Princess Beatrice fiasco was just completely made up. Instead, he said, Ed was drunk, messing around, and he cut himself. We made a fancy story up, people fell for it. It was very embarrassing. But interestingly enough, Ed has since gone on the Graham Norton show and refused to admit that it was made up, saying, I can't talk about it. I don't know what will happen if I do. Then his manager Stuart Camp addressed the incident on a podcast and called Princess Beatrice an effing idiot. Quote, certain people said, oh, you should lie and say it wasn't her and say it was someone else. I said, well, we're not telling anyone anything. I'm not lying. Just because someone's an effing idiot and they've been waving a sword around when you're all drunk, it's not safe. So what really happened? Who was lying? Maybe we don't know the truth after all. Number 5, Meghan Markle. In the first installment installment of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix documentary, the Duchess of Sussex explains how she became estranged with her father, Thomas Markle. She said that she attempted to contact him multiple times in the lead up to her 2018 royal wedding, after it had emerged that he had staged paparazzi photos for money. During the documentary, messages between Thomas and Meghan were shown on the screen, but Meghan claimed that his responses seemed fake and his phone had been compromised. She said, "It was really weird. You know how people text, right? My dad used a lot of emojis and a lot of ellipses and ... and this was just the opposite, and it called me Meghan. I was like, he's never called me Meghan any day that I've lived on this planet." And I was like, that's not my dad. However, Thomas has now come out saying that it really was him who sent those texts. He said, "I wrote every word that I sent from that phone, which is still in my possession. For her to claim my phone was compromised is simply not true. I wrote that text as I lay in a hospital bed after having 2 heart attacks and having stents put in. I wasn't angry, I was in the hospital. They never once asked how I was doing. When I got their messages, I was upset. I thought I didn't deserve those messages." So obviously, it really was him who sent those texts. Number 4, Lance Armstrong. Some people have called this the biggest sports scandal in history. Lance was the best pro cyclist at one point in time. The American won the sport's most prestigious event, the Tour de France, 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005. But he was holding in an explosive secret that would tarnish his reputation forever. In 2012, Armstrong denied that he ever relied on performance-enhancing substances, calling the allegations against him outlandish and heinous. But when the US anti-doping agency released compelling evidence, his web of lies crumbled. He eventually admitted to Oprah Winfrey in 2013 that yes, he did in fact cheat, and stated that his mythic, perfect story was one big lie. Calling himself deeply flawed, he said, "This is too late. It's too late for probably most people, and that's my fault. This was one big lie that I repeated a lot of times." He also admitted that he was a bully in the sense that he tried to control the narrative, sometimes by spewing venom at ex-teammates he thought were disloyal, as well as suing people and publications that accused him of cheating. What's more, Armstrong insisted that he never felt bad or felt that it was wrong when he used the performance-enhancing substances. The whole thing remains one of the most dramatic sports interviews ever. He was subsequently stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles and bronze Olympic medal, and he was forced to step down as chairman of Livestrong, and all of his achievements were gone in an instant.
Coming in number 3, Casey Neistat.
No.
Yeah,
we were
just
trying
ketchup.
to do a serious thing here, and this is not funny. That's ketchup. Do not be upset. There are children watching. That was not funny. That's totally uncool.
Teaming up with Fox News, Casey and his brother were attempting to show them how easy it was for thieves to steal bikes in New York City. Casey, thinking it would be fun to prank the on-the-street host, ended up really making a fool out of himself. When his brother started using these saws to break the chain around the bike used in this example, Casey shot ketchup onto the ground and dropped as if his neck had just been sliced. When no one was laughing and the woman interviewing them began freaking out, he quickly had to stand up, dust himself off, and apologize. And again, it was very embarrassing. Coming in number 2, Cara Delevingne. Let's just say her dry British humor was not really received well by these happy-go-lucky morning news hosts at CBS Sacramento. At the start of the interview, she was asked some very dumb questions, admittedly. For example, the film Paper Town was based on a book, so they asked her if she had read the book, and then immediately after making a snide comment about her probably not having enough time to read, Cara obviously takes offense to this, judging by her body language, but instead decides to flip it into a joke, saying that she didn't even bother reading the script, just winged it. And the interviewers actually take this as factual for a moment before her laughing cuts the tension. But that's not even the most awkward part of this interview though.
No, I think it's just you.
I think it probably is us.
Well, then on that note,
We figured as much.
we'll let you go then. How about that? We'll let you go take a little nap, maybe get a Red Bull. How about that?
After one interviewer asked her why she isn't as excited as her other interviews, she remarks that it's very early and that she thought it was going well. So again, jokingly, she says, "It must be you," which certainly did not go over well with the studio executives, nor the people interviewing her. Last but certainly not least, coming in at our number 1 spot, Ryan Seacrest.
Goes, I am pumped.
As you should be. Well, I'm giving you a high five. Congratulations, there it is. And we will see you in Hollywood, California.
This video of Ryan Seacrest trying to high-five a blind man is peak cringe. My body feels like it turns inside out every time I watch it. On January 13th, 2009, during an episode of American Idol, a blind man named Scott finds out that all 4 judges have decided to put him through to the next round. As Scott comes back into the holding room to share the good news with his family, Seacrest looks noticeably impatient while standing by the door. As his family gets excited, Ryan goes for a high five, and the moment moment his hand comes up, you can see his brain switch to panic mode once he realizes that Scott is about to leave him hanging on live television. So in a bizarre series of events, Ryan reaches down, grabs his hand to prompt a high five. It was a hilariously awkward and certainly one celebrity moment that a lot of people have forgotten about.
And at number 9, Wendy Williams. This one is absolutely outrageous, but I just had to share it. In March of 2021, Wendy Williams shocked the live viewers of her show when she burped and farted at the same time. During the Hot Topics segment where Wendy was talking about the Kardashians, Wendy let out a burp and then covered her mouth, but a brief toot happened as well. And the show's mics picked up the whole thing for the world to hear. She owned up to the embarrassing moment immediately, saying, I apologize, before going straight back into the gossip. But what makes this even funnier is that Wendy is now known to be a tooter, and she was involved in Fartgate last year on her show. However, that time, even though we all heard the toot, she didn't own up to it, and said about the toot at that time, quote, I barely fart. You know why? Because gas gets released several different ways, and mine is belching, because all I do is talk. I guess we all know the truth now, Wendy. And at number 8, Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate was fired from SNL after she made a career-ending error during the live TV broadcast. There are a lot of rules when doing live TV, but one of the most important is to never swear. During her very first appearance on the show in 2009, she was doing a segment where she said a play on the F word by saying frickin' over and over. But one of those times she said the real word and dropped the F-bomb. She quickly caught herself saying it, but it was too late, and immediately after the show she knew what a huge mistake that she'd made. She even got a lot of hate online from viewers after the slip. She ended up getting fired from the show at the end of her first season, although she says she wasn't fired because of the F-bomb incident, but rather because it wasn't a good fit. Getting fired was a huge blow to her reputation and career, but she has found success since.
Coming at number 7, Dakota Johnson. This without a doubt has to be the cringe heard around the world. We got to watch the live falling out between Dakota Johnson and her mother Melanie Griffith on the red carpet of the Oscars. Just because the cameras are rolling, they fake laugh their way through this entirely awkward interview. The whole thing started off on a really bad note too. The interviewer praises Melanie while repeatedly calling Dakota her little girl, which just downplays how successful that she's been on her own. Then when her mother is asked if she has watched 50 Shades of Grey, her mom outright says that she wouldn't watch the movie, which clearly hurts her daughter.
Feels like everybody has seen it. Have you?
No. No. Not maybe.
What do you have
maybe
say?
One day.
You don't want to see it?
Maybe one day. I don't think I can.
Regardless of the content of the film and the positive reviews, a kid is always looking for that recognition from their parents. Nonetheless, this is one embarrassing live TV moment. Coming in number 6, Kourtney Kardashian.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry about that. So I just was wondering how everyone's doing. Hello, Kourtney. Have we lost you?
After her sister Kim was robbed in Paris, Today Extra, an Australian news outlet, was interviewing Kourtney via satellite from Los Angeles. They asked her how Kim was doing following this traumatic event, but suddenly Kourtney's face freezes. You then can sort of hear what sounds like her publicist saying, "Do not answer that question."
We were very empathetic about what happened and very sort of horrified. And so we were wondering, how is everyone going and how's Kim doing?
What? Okay.
The interviewer then goes on a bit of a rant saying that she could simply say that her sister is doing fine, as they too speculate that she was told to be quiet. However, she then does answer the question on her own, saying that she's not doing great, and I think that they're all still shaken up by it. Her response to what appeared to be her blanking was that the audio on the other end wasn't coming through. Sure. Coming in number 5, Ninja.
Let's get it. Come on, baby. Show me what you got. Show me. Just move. If you got no one, just move. That's all I want to see, some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement. Oh my God.
This video will still be one of the funniest things in the world to me. I don't know what brilliant executive thought this would be a good idea, but man, did they ever misread this opportunity. First of all, you're trying to get a bunch of New Yorkers who have been standing out in the rain for hours to dance. That was their first mistake. Secondly, they have a man famous for playing video games, most of which in that crowd I'm sure they have never even heard of Fortnite, doing a dance that is perhaps the most cringe-worthy dance since the Macarena. The end result is Ninja soaking wet on live television, dancing alone while yelling, "I'm not seeing any movement." Yeah, no, very cringe.
In at number 3, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj had everyone on the edge when she took the time during her 2015 VMA acceptance speech to call out host Miley Cyrus. The call out was because Miley made some negative comments about her to the press. While accepting the award for Best Hip Hop Video, Nicki Minaj finished it off saying, quote, "And now back to this bee that had a lot to say about me in the press the other day. Miley, what's good?" Miley handled it very well and quickly congratulated Nicki on the win and said the media twisted her words. Miley's original comments took place during an interview where she was talking about Taylor Swift and Nicki spat over award nominations, where Miley said, quote, "What I read sounded very Nicki Minaj," which, if you know Nicki Minaj, is not too kind. It's not very polite. I think there's a way you speak to people with openness and love. You don't have to start this pop star against pop star war. So I'm not sure how that could have been taken out of context, but I think Miley's allowed to have her opinion here. In at number 2, Nancy O'Dell. Entertainment reporter Nancy O'Dell got herself in some hot water after she made some shady comments to Taylor Swift. The host was talking to Taylor on the Grammys red carpet in 2015 and asked, quote, "You're gonna walk away with more than a trophy tonight. I think lots of men," Nancy said to Taylor. After the question, Taylor looked stunned and offended, and she fired back that it was not the case. Swift responded, quote, "I'm not gonna walk home with any men tonight. I'm gonna hang out with my friends and then go home to my cats," with her adding later that men get her into trouble. These comments were probably meant to be a lighthearted joke about Taylor's publicized relationships, but obviously the Grammys was not the time or place. And finally at number 1, James Franco. James Franco's acting career has taken a hit for many reasons, but his hosting career was over just as fast as it started after he hosted the Oscars with Anne Hathaway. If you don't already know about this legendary night, James Franco and Anne Hathaway hosted the 2011 awards. But it was universally regarded as a train wreck. The main reason for the train wreck was James Franco, because he looked half asleep basically the whole time, and like he didn't want to be there, which forced Anne Hathaway to overcompensate with her delivery. And I think it's safe to say that Franco is the one that made it very hard to watch, while Anne was just trying to keep things afloat. Hathaway admitted she initially tried to turn down the gig, but eventually came around, adding, quote, "Your first instinct is usually the right one." Also, apparently the whole thing was Franco's idea, which just makes everything so much worse.
Coming in at number 10, Steve Harvey.
I have to apologize. The first runner-up is Colombia. Miss Universe 2015 is Philippines.
Back in 2015, many watched in awe as Steve Harvey made one of the greatest blunders in television history. Steve incorrectly announced that the winner of the Miss Universe contest was Colombia. As the celebration was happening and right as she was getting crowned though, you just see poor Steve Harvey tuck his tail between his legs and march back out to correct his mistake. It was definitely hard to watch, but man, you gotta commend Steve for owning up to his mistakes like that. Realizing that Miss Philippines was the actual winner, he came back out and corrected it without even blaming anyone for his mistake. Although he might have said something about the teleprompter being wrong. But before we hit our next point though, we need you guys to hit that like button because it really helps us out. And with that out of the way, let's keep going. Coming in at number 9, Pamela Anderson. I don't know if she was wasted or what, but right from the very beginning of this interview in 2006 with comedian John Rove McManus, it was a disaster. Upon her introduction, she came running out with more energy than that time that Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch, which we might get to later. Pamela greeted the crowd with a hair flip and then proceeded to toss a handful of green candy into the crowd. Candy that she had plucked from a bowl on the table at the interview.
And that's not all by the sounds of things.
Although the real nail in her coffin was the drama that led up to this bizarre interview with the former Baywatch star. According to John, the show runs live and Pamela was late, so he actually had to start the show before she was even in the building. When she finally did show up, she really seemed like she was doing everything to hurry up the process and get out of there. Multiple times he genuinely asked her if she was okay, but that only made things more awkward.
In at number 7, Janet Jackson. There is no way I couldn't include this one in the list because Jackson's career was truly never the same after this accident. During the 2004 Super Bowl, Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake performed at what would become the most memorable halftime show of all time. While the two were dancing and singing, Timberlake suddenly grabbed and ripped her shirt, exposing her breast to the entire world. Following the incident, the media dubbed it Nipplegate. Janet Jackson was put through the ringer for her part in the whole scandal, and as a result, she was uninvited to the Grammy Awards that year, and her songs were blacklisted from the radio. It was later discovered that the whole incident happened because they added a costume reveal into their performance at the last last minute, but for some reason it failed. The crazy part was that even though Timberlake was the reason the whole thing actually happened, his career only got better after the incident, while Janet's basically disappeared. And at number 6, Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X did what he does best during his SNL performance and made our jaws drop. Lil Nas X performed his song Montero, Call Me By Your Name, and Sun Goes Down for the season 46 finale. And his raunchy performance turned a lot of heads by itself, but it got even better after Lil Nas ripped his pants on live TV during the performance. While he was dancing on a stripper pole, he bent down and ripped his pants. And we pretty much all knew that it happened because he had a brief look of shock and horror on his face while trying to figure out what to do next. He also spent the rest of the entire performance covering the rip on his crotch with his hand. After fans started speculating about the rip on Twitter, Nas tweeted out, quote, "Not my pants ripped on live TV." Then sometime later that night he tweeted again, quote, "I know I do a lot of planned but ripping my pants on live TV is not one of them." Thankfully, it wasn't that bad of a rip and the people watching at home didn't see too much. And number 4, Martin Lawrence. This is another incident that took place on SNL. While Martin Lawrence was hosting, his monologue got so raunchy at one point that it ended up being cut from the broadcast. If you're wondering what kind of stuff is so bad that it won't get aired on television, well, his monologue was talking about genital hygiene of the female intimate areas. And the whole thing was pretty crass and explicit. When the episode aired later that night for West Coast viewers, NBC cut that portion of the monologue and replaced it with text explaining the gist of Lawrence's commentary and how, quote, network policy prevents any rebroadcast of that routine. The rest of the schedule went on as usual, but Lawrence was obviously banned from the show after, and probably not allowed back on any live TV either.
Coming in at number 3, Sinead O'Connor. In 1992, Sinead O'Connor was invited to be the musical guest on Saturday Night Live. Had she just stuck to her usual routine, this performance could have ended much differently. However, instead of doing that, she decided to go down a very weird downward spiral that was all captured on live television. Nearing the end of her performance, O'Connor pulls out a photo of Pope John Paul II and slowly begins to rip the picture in half. She did this while saying, "Fight the real enemy." Shortly thereafter, she was banned from ever appearing on the show again, probably because when they were doing rehearsals, this little number was not included. You can't surprise people like that, especially Lorne Michaels. "That's it, you're out of here, kid." That's my Lorne Michaels impression. Coming in at number 2, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen is the polar opposite of what you should do when pursuing a career in Hollywood. He carries with him a terrible offset and on-set reputation, and the debacle that he went through in 2011 even led to his contract termination from the show 2.5 Men. For a while, he was all over the news for everything from substance abuse, domestic violence, and even when he revealed that he was HIV positive. With his history of flying off at the drop of a hat and trying to get people fired who speak ill of him, Sheen had a very difficult time trying to rebuild his career. Although it's hard to put a pin on one interview in particular that really ended Sheen's career, there are certainly a bevy of bizarre ones to choose from. Perhaps the worst was when he was on the Today Show for a very candid conversation.
People that aren't special, people that don't have tiger blood and, Adonis DNA.
Strong people have relapsed. Strong people have started using again. How do you avoid that?
Fools.
Last but certainly not least, our number 1 spot, Billy Bob Thornton. As great as a career that old Billy Bob has had as an actor, he is also in a band called the Boxmasters. Although oddly enough, whenever he does interviews now, he insists that they only talk about the band and never even bring up his acting career. I mean, how could you do that? It's really weird considering how prolific this guy was as an actor. You'd think if the interviewer was a fan of his, it would be really disappointing to get this demand before starting your conversation with him. Hey, you know that thing you really love about me? Yeah, don't talk about that. Not at all. I don't want to hear your questions. The biggest blow up that was viewed as one of his most awkward interviews was when he and his band were on a show called Q for CBC in Canada. The interviewer tried his best to talk to Billy, but he always answered in a confusing way, which left the band feeling even more awkward to answer the questions for him. I mean, take a look.
I wasn't instructed to. I'm not really instructed. You guys are here as a band. You're performing, but
the producer was instructed.
Right,
but somewhere along the way.
I actually can't believe that he just told the interviewer how he was instructed not to call his music career a hobby. No wonder this guy has had like 5 different marriages. God, get it together, Billy Bob Thornton.
Number 10, Hilaria Baldwin. The podcaster and former yoga instructor is best known as the glamorous, mysterious woman whom Alec Baldwin is married to. In a recent scandal, Hilaria Baldwin found herself caught in a massive lie. It all started when comedian Amy Schumer made a joke on Instagram, posting a postpartum photo of Hilaria holding her 3-month-old baby while wearing lingerie. She was making light of the fact that she looks like a Sports Illustrated model just months after giving birth to her 5th child. Then Hilaria got upset upset and went on Instagram Live in response, calling for body inclusivity, and said that the movement also needed to include women who look like her. But in the heat of the moment during the 4-minute video, Hilaria forgot to speak in the Spanish accent that she's been putting on for close to a decade. This resulted in a massive internet investigation, where people found out that she is really in fact not from Spain, as she claimed multiple times in the past, but she was born in Boston, USA. Oh, and her name isn't Hilaria, it's Hillary. Fans also dug up a shocking clip of her on the Today Show, pretending not to know the English word for cucumber. Eventually, she started backpedaling like crazy and claimed that she first visited Spain when she was a baby, and her family returned at least once every year, but she declines to specify how much time she spent there altogether. So why would you claim to be Spanish if you only vacationed there a couple of times? Number 9, Milli Vanilli. Perhaps one of the most infamous scandals in music history came when the duo was caught in one of the biggest lies ever. Fans had long speculated that Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan, two guys with thick European accents and limited command of the English language, couldn't possibly have created hits like Girl You Know It's True and Blame It on the Rain. And yet the news of their deception still came as a shock to many. As they enjoyed the trappings of their monumental success, Rob and Fab struggled to live with their secret. On July 21st in 1989, the group's backing tape malfunctioned during a live performance at a club in Bristol, Connecticut. And as the words "Girl You Know It's" repeated over and over, Rob panicked and ran off stage. The incident had no immediate effect on their career, but he would later call the incident the beginning of the end. Figuring their time was running out, the two turned against their producer Frank Farian, who of course was in on it the whole time, and they demanded to sing on their next album. As the battle intensified, Farian had no choice but to call a press conference and spill the beans. He was unapologetic about the scam, and in 1991 he released a new studio album credited to the real singers. But for Milli Vanilli, the consequences of being found out were catastrophic. They were stripped of the Grammys they had won for Best New Artist, and duped fans filed a class action lawsuit against them. The scandal ended up following them both forever. Number 8, Brian Williams. Once an extremely trusted news reporter, Williams's career was put in jeopardy when he was caught in a lie of his own making. Over the years, he told a shifty story about the day that he flew aboard a US Army helicopter during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. In later versions of the story, he said that his helicopter was hit and forced down by enemy fire. He was caught in a big lie though, as yes, that did happen, but he wasn't even on the helicopter. He embellished the story to make it seem like he was right in the middle of the action, when in reality, he was more of a witness. He said, the story actually started with a terrible moment a dozen years back during the invasion of Iraq, when the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armor mechanized platoon from the US Army 3rd Infantry. Except that never happened. It wasn't long before the other soldiers who were actually on that helicopter that was hit and had to perform an emergency landing posted on Facebook that they didn't recall Williams or his crew being on board. They said that he arrived approximately an hour after the formation had already landed. Called out for his fabrication, Williams came clean and called the recollections a mistake, saying that he conflated one aircraft with another.
Coming in at number 9, Vanilla Ice. Way back in 1999, before Jon Stewart was the host of The Daily Show, he was hosting a program on the set of MTV called MTV's Lame 25. On the show, the host would typically make fun of different music videos that had already aired on MTV, and then they would destroy the tape. On one episode in particular, rapper Vanilla Ice came in at number 9 with his song Ice Ice Baby. The rapper was in the studio at the time of the criticisms, and he was planned to take to the set with a baseball bat and break the tape for his own song as per MTV's request. However, things didn't go exactly as planned. The jokes and comments must have really started to bug Vanilla Ice because he didn't just break the tape. Vanilla Ice took that baseball bat to the entire set, smashing everything and scaring everyone in the process. Luckily, he was able to bounce back from this by reinventing himself as a DIY superstar on different home improvement networks, but I don't know if that's much better. I mean, how ironic though would it be for MTV to call up Vanilla Ice and have him rebuild their set that he destroyed? I think that'd be pretty great. We should do that. We should organize that. Who has to start a GoFundMe? Because Vanilla Ice is going to need to get paid to do that. You're like, don't you need a change.org? No, GoFundMe to get him to do this. Coming in at number 6, Jesse Eisenberg.
Do you know the comedian Carrot Top?
Yes, horrible.
Well, You were like the carrot top of interviewers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. No, and it's a good thing. It's
I'm
a
gonna
good
go
thing.
cry now.
No, don't cry now.
While promoting the film Now You See Me, Jesse Eisenberg just could not contain his utter disdain for this interview. Right out of the gate, he was on the defensive. The interviewer refers to Morgan Freeman simply as Freeman, for which Jesse then takes offense to for some reason. He then remarks that she's the carrot top of interviewing, which just insults the interviewer so bad that she hurries Jesse to complete a magic trick so that they can just wrap it all up. The entire interview is one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever witnessed, and we're only at number 6 on this list. Trust me though, if you haven't watched this full interview, you must. It is just such a terrible exchange back and forth between an actor and an interviewer, a true masterclass on what not to do. From both sides, really. Coming in at number 5, Tom Cruise. It was the couch jump that truly rocked Hollywood and a side of the action hero Tom Cruise that we had never witnessed before. In short, it was a meltdown over passion for his newest love interest, Katie Holmes. At the time, Tom Cruise was one of the biggest celebrities in America, and he was already an established leading man with roles such as Top Gun and Jerry Maguire under his belt. He was appearing on the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his upcoming movie, which was Steven Spielberg's remake of War of the Worlds. However, instead of staying on script for his promo material, he could not stop gushing over his new girlfriend. Within 15 minutes of the interview, Tom had leapt onto Oprah's couch as Oprah struggled to find the words for his over-the-top infatuation. In the moment, it was this very heartwarming thing to see, but in hindsight, people watching that clip only see Tom acting out of school for an interview. So by all accounts, and without hearing the audience's reaction, this was categorized as one of Tom's biggest TV meltdowns. Coming in at number 4, Ashlee Simpson. That video of Ashlee Simpson on Saturday Night Live just messing up her performance still gives me secondhand embarrassment. In the video, you can see all of this confusion when she realizes that the track started playing before she even had the microphone up to her face. So she just starts like awkwardly dancing instead. Hey, maybe that's where the Fortnite Take the L dance came from. At that point, you can't even really salvage the performance. I mean, it's called Saturday Night Live for a reason. So she did her little dance, said that she was sorry, blamed it on her band for some reason for playing the wrong song, and then it was all quick cut to commercial from there. During an interview several years later, she was asked about this incident, and here's what Ashlee had to say.
What happened there was I had a vocal problem. I had 2 nodes beating against each other, and I woke up and I had no voice. And then I should have said, no, I will not go on. I will not do this. And
Number 3, Suki Waterhouse. The British model and singer told a fairly innocuous lie when she claimed to use Coca-Cola to wash her hair. Speaking to Us Weekly in 2015, Suki said, "I rinse my hair with Coca-Cola sometimes. I don't like my hair when it's washed. It's fine and limp, but Coca-Cola makes it tousled, like I've gone through the Amazon or something." So apparently because the popular drink makes her strands appear more textured, she uses Coca-Cola. Fast forward to 7 years later and she admitted on Twitter that she lied about the whole thing. When a fan asked her if she still rinses her hair with a soda, she confessed, "Okay, I have to be honest, I got bored doing hair interviews and said this. I have never done this." She then retweeted an article written by someone who had tried her beauty method and said, "I did Jessica dirty." In case you're wondering, there is a reason why some people have said the Coca-Cola method might actually work. Apparently, it contains something called phosphoric acid, a very low pH. So when you apply it to your hair, the cuticle tightens, which makes your strands look smoother and your curls look more defined. Others say the sugar adds build-up to your hair, making it look fuller and giving it more shine. But unfortunately though, it's not going to cleanse your hair. Instead, it'll leave in dirt particles, and long-term use will be very unpleasant for the scalp and hair from a conditioning point of view. Number 2, Britney Spears. The pop star was dating Justin Timberlake in 1999, and they were considered the it couple as soon as they first got together. Britney was just 19 years old and under immense pressure to maintain a public image that was both sexy and innocent. This was difficult when every TV and radio interview ever was asking her if she and Justin Timberlake were sexually active. At one point, she addressed the speculation and said, "The virginity issue. It's a personal decision and it reflects how I feel right now about myself. There are so many emotions involved that I would like to be able to wait until I know I'm with the right person and I'm married." But for his part, Justin obviously didn't feel like he had as much at stake, and he revealed that yes, they had in fact been intimate. During a conversation with Hot 97, Justin was asked if they'd ever done the deed, to which he said, "I did it. I'm dirty. I'm in so much damn trouble, man. I'm going to get calls from my mother." Britney addressed his confession years later, saying, "It was 2 years into my relationship with Justin, and I thought he was the one, but I was wrong. I didn't think he was gonna go on Barbara Walters and sell me out. Years later, the documentary Framing Britney was released, and it revealed how Justin used the breakup to boost his career. As a result, he immediately found himself at the receiving end of a ton of backlash over his past treatment of Britney. And coming in at number 1, Taylor Swift. The singer was called out big time in 2016 when Kanye West released a song called Famous, which was met with extreme backlash. In the song, he name drops Taylor and says, "I made that be famous." In response, the singer clapped back at the 2016 Grammys, saying, "There are going to be people along the way who are going to try and undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame." Then Kim Kardashian came to Kanye's defense and leaked a recording of Taylor agreeing to the lyrics over the phone when Kanye called her from the studio. This caused a massive scandal to erupt, and fans quickly called Taylor a snake for seemingly lying that she had never consented to him using those lyrics. The whole world thought that she was well aware of the song and not fazed by it, but it wasn't until 4 years later that the phone call made the rounds on social media and exonerated Taylor of any wrongdoing. During the call, you can hear Kanye reassure her that the lyrics won't be mean, and he conveniently leaves out the fact that he's going to call her the B word in the song. So that's why there are still debates going on to this day over whether or not Taylor did anything wrong.